Yo, 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 what's going on, Bruins fans? Welcome back to episode 370 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast here on the new Cyclone Sports Podcast Network, and also available on Instagram. Well, not on Instagram, but it's available on Facebook. That's the other one. Facebook, Twitch, X, and YouTube on the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel, and now on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, the host of the show, Sam Smith, and I am joined this week by my co-host, David Collins. David, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Sam, another week of the Bruins are down. I think we're starting to get an idea of how this team looks. I've seen some positives and negatives, and I'm interested to get into it. Can you tell me why Mark is not here, Sam?
Mark is not here this week because the Pooh Bear had enough of the slander from Mr. Mark Allred. He had enough of, the lies and all that about, the Pooh Bear's a crappy jersey. No. So the Pooh Bear is in a standoff with Mark right now, and neither of them are budging currently. So that's why he is not here this week. No, seriously, Mark is not here this week because of a scheduling conflict, and he will be back with us next week here on the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. This should be an interesting week because last week here on the podcast, we were very negative for most of the part. We were talking all this crap. All the team sucks. We're screwed. Not in the past week. Not in this past week. We are not totally screwed, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, I'm not able to click. What's going on here? I don't know. For some reason, I'm not able to change anything. The week's agendas or anything. I can't really do it. I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Oh, we may have lost Sam. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. If we do go down, we will be going live again as soon as all the technical issues are taken care of. So feel free to stick around. Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. What was that about?
Welcome back.
My freaking internet just decided to take a crap on itself for no reason. I don't know what that was about. What in the world? Anyways. Jeez, I don't know what that was about, chat. Or anybody watching on after the fact or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever. Let's see. Now I can click. This is great.
Hey.
This is awesome. Let's talk about last week's games. My internet just crashed. That was really strange. Hey, they won. They won on Saturday. We were talking about how last Friday we talked about, they need to win at least one of these games. Well, David, they won this game in pretty convincing fashion in what I'd argue to be Korpisalo's best start of the season.
We're going to get into the games, the more recent games later, but you take out that first game and Korpisalo's look pretty good. There's a couple things that I like about it. I like that they're using him in these games, like the ones against the Flyers, and we can call them the lesser teams, even though we did lose to the Flyers the first time. But obviously a 3-0 win is a lot better than a 2-0 loss last time. Korpisalo looked great. I really thought the Bruins looked dominant for the majority of this game, especially the first 5 minutes of the first period. They really came out strong, and I think they wanted to assert some dominance there. Korpisalo was, for me, he's number one star. He looked unreal. He seems to really be settling into his role with the Bruins now. The other thing I like about what is happening with Korpisalo, obviously I don't know Don Sweeney or Cam Neely or what they plan on doing, but I think it's a good idea that they're getting him these games. They're building up his confidence. He's becoming more familiar with the system, but it also could be building a bit on the trade value at this point, depending on what they do with him long term.
Yeah, I think Korpisalo, excuse me. It's still like a kind of a weird question, right? Because yeah, he's here for 3 years at the max, but let's think about it, right? You have Bussy there waiting to come up. You have DiPietro there wanting to come up. Even though Bussy hasn't had the best start to the season, and DiPietro's had a great start. You have two people there that are hungry to try to get to the NHL. However, Korpisalo comes out and has a really solid past week of hockey, and he looked pretty good on Saturday. I really liked the details the Bruins had last Saturday. They did a really good job, especially in the offensive zone when it came to possession. They did a lot of good in that game when it comes to possessing the puck. I loved the centering pass from Marchand to Brazeau there. I loved the way Marchand just set it up for Brazeau on that one-timer in the slot.
Yeah, big time. I thought their power play looked really good. They were taking lots of shots, and most of the shots made sense. It wasn't just shots with no purpose.
Yeah.
I know you're playing against the Flyers, but it looked like one of their more complete games of the season.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also, I understand they were just playing the Flyers. This is a team you lost to a few days before that game, at home.
Yeah.
You've been shut out quite a few times this year. The Flyers are one of the teams that have shut you out, along with Nashville and Toronto. But look, a win's a win, right? And you needed a win like that after an 8-2 embarrassment on Halloween. They came out and looked really solid all around. Their defense was really good. Korpisalo was making some really good saves, and overall a really good performance there. Excuse me. I also like that Matt Patra got his first goal. That was really good to see Patra get his first goal of the season.
Love the kid.
Let's see. This one, the next night, they took on the Seattle Kraken, and they also pull out a win. Now, it wasn't as complete, I would say, as the other game on that weekend, but they beat the Kraken 2-0. Goals there from Charlie Coyle, who we've been waiting for to break out and finally get hot. He got one, and he got an assist last night, but we'll talk about that later. But Coyle finally starting to figure it out.
That Coyle goal was just beautiful. Watching him do what he did to the goalie, that poor guy needs to change his shorts. It was awesome to watch. Back to back, you're going from a matinee on Saturday to an early evening on Sunday, and you win back-to-back games there. That's impressive. I know that obviously they didn't have a whole lot of travel going from Philadelphia back to Boston, but either way, back-to-back games are tough. I fully agree with you. I think Charlie Cole looked great. The goaltending, obviously it was a shutout, so, good job. But I don't think it was as clean of a goaltending experience as I wanted to see. I do think that it's going to get better in time, but we'll see where it goes. It definitely wasn't as complete and dominant, but a win at home is a win at home.
Yeah, I mean, after the first period, they had a really good first period, and then they kind of just glided along for the rest of that game. Second period was kind of like a filler period, but then the third period, they just decided, you know what, we're just going to play complete trap lockdown defense here. And it worked because they kept the puck out of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and we're going to get to these games after, obviously, but I don't know how I'm feeling about this. It's almost like they play a little bit passive when they have a lead. They do play a lot more defensive like that, and sooner or later it's going to come back to bite them. It almost caught them in the Leafs game when they won in overtime, where Matthews snuck backdoor in the last few seconds. Yep. They got to be careful with their game plan when they're up a couple goals.
Yeah, I mean, they have to figure it out, and I think they're trying to figure it out. They're slowly getting there, but we had some doubt when this game happened. Oof. People are already stressed out in the United States about all this stuff going on politically, and now we have this. As Bruins fans, this pissed me off. Genuinely pissed me off. 4-0 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs on the road, a team you beat previously in overtime. Came out and threw out a stinker in a game where, for a good portion of that game, that was winnable there, David. And it just did not. They couldn't figure out Anthony Stolarz.
I mean, Stolarz has looked fantastic for Toronto. That's a great get for them. I don't like it as a Bruins fan, obviously, but it really goes to show you what some of these backups in the league can do when they get a chance to be a starter. I think, Sam, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first 3 goals in this game are all on the power play.
Yeah, they were.
you need to be able to do something with a penalty kill if you plan on taking these many penalties. You can't give up 3 power play goals and expect to do anything. Like, it's just, you just shoot yourself in the foot, you go in the box, and then you're not able to come back. And it's just, it's hard to watch with these penalty kills. And the power play has looked better. I'll give them that, but there's a lot of work to do on this penalty kill.
Yeah, the penalty kill, people crap on the power play, which for good reason, but let's talk about the penalty kill for a minute. It has been awful this season.
It's been terrible.
Maybe it's because they can't stay off the ice because of how many penalties the Bruins are taking, or what, because they are still the most penalized team in the National Hockey League, by the way. At the time of this recording, they are still at least in the top 3 of most penalized in the NHL. And I think, I don't know why, is my question. Why is that? Like, Zadorov, right? We have talked about this since the beginning of the season, how many times he's been taking penalties. And we are officially today 1 month into the NHL season, and he is still not even close. The most penalized Bruins player on this team.
Right.
Not when it comes to penalty minutes, but it comes to actual, like, straight up different penalties. He is number 1, and it's not close, David.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot. I'll be honest. I didn't watch a whole lot of Zadorov before he came to the Bruins, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. Like, I don't know if this is what Canuck fans and Flames fans were going through before he got there, but it gets to a point where it's hard to watch. Their penalty kill is just, it's not good. And especially if you got Zadorov in the box and you're considering him to be one of your penalty killers, then that makes it even tougher. It's just, I don't know what they need to fix. I don't know if there's something with the coaching that, they're telling Zadorov to not be disciplined and to go for this type of stuff. Or I read something on Twitter where it was talking about it's possible that Zadorov is not open to constructive criticism and he doesn't like listening to coaching and stuff. And you think he'd be old enough and more of a vet to understand that those things are necessary in order to be a better, like, all-around player.
I don't want to believe that, because that should have been a warning sign that Sweeney took, and they would have passed on Zadorov if he wasn't open to constructive criticism and coaching.
Right.
So I personally don't want to believe that. And plus, it's Twitter. It's a weird place. But if that's the case, why in the world are we signing this guy then? If he doesn't want to take coaching or constructive criticism, number 1, you're in the wrong sport. Number 2, why are we spending $5 million on this guy for 6 years? So I'm not so sure about that. But I did hear rumblings from Canucks fans about him, not being as disciplined as you'd like. I heard that. And I was like, we'll see, right? I was like, I don't know. I do know now, and I kind of understand the issue with Zadorov, but it's not just Zadorov that's taking these penalties. Charlie Coyle has been taking a decent amount of penalties. David Pastrnak has abnormally been taking a lot of penalties.
McAvoy as well.
McAvoy has been, he can't stay out of the box.
Yeah.
And this game proved it. You gave up 7 power plays in this hockey game against the Leafs on Tuesday. You're lucky they only scored on 3 of them.
Yeah, that's right. Because
the Bruins power play was pathetic. The Bruins' entire game on Tuesday was pathetic. That looked like it was pro versus peewees. Like, that's what I was watching on Tuesday, David.
It's funny too, because I looked up some information regarding, because I always said I have a few friends who are Maple Leaf fans, and I always said, like, the Leafs are better without Matthews, and they looked at me like I'm crazy. I looked up some stats. The Leafs have had 575 games where Matthews played. They won 62%.
Yeah.
They've had 57 games, so obviously a lot smaller sample size. 57 games without Matthews, and they won 63%. So technically, yes, they are better without Matthews than they are with Matthews. I know it's a lot smaller sample size that we're talking about, but like that's your dude. That's your captain. That's your number one. And you're winning 63% of the games without him and only 62% with him. I know you got to go back and maybe, the Leafs weren't great in his first couple of years or whatever, but it's still an interesting stat.
That is very interesting. You got to remember, the Leafs haven't missed the playoffs since they got Matthews. They've been good ever since they got Matthews in that 2016-17 season. Yeah, they got knocked out in the first round by the Capitals, but they've been good with Matthews the entire run. But if the percentages are saying that they're better without Matthews, then I'm going to bring it up. Was paying Matthews all that money a mistake on Kyle Dubas's end when he signed that deal? And then now they have Brad Treliving having to pay the remnants of it?
Well, that's the thing you got to look at is, obviously, like I said, it's a much smaller sample size, and maybe those numbers will change. But as of right now, it's definitely something that will be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know what? All that aside, we kind of got the exact opposite game last night than what we got on Tuesday, because the Bruins came out and beat the Flames in overtime 4-3 on a game winner from, you guessed it, Mr. Overtime himself, Brad Marchand, the game winner last night in OT. Look, hey, this was a much better game, although the Bruins are still running into the issue of not being able to close games. Last night, they came into the third period up 3-1, and it didn't end 3-1 at the end of the third period. The Flames came back to tie the game. The defense went to sleep in the third period.
It seems similar to the Kraken game that we talked about. They had a lead. They were up 3-1. They sat back trying to play defensive hockey, and it backfired. It's happened multiple times now with the Leafs game. Something similar happened there, and now it's happening with Calgary. So obviously, Montgomery needs to change something with his coaching philosophy with a lead. They always say that a 2-goal lead in hockey is the most dangerous lead to have. It's the one that seems to go away the fastest at times. I thought they looked great for the first 40 minutes. I thought they were fast. I thought they were aggressive. I loved one or two of those goals were like cross crease, normal goals that I'm used to seeing. Like, I was loving it. I also wanted to mention that Pasta, I believe, had an assist on the first 2 goals.
Yeah,
and also Pavel Zacha got his 300 point on the goal in the second period. Those first 2 periods, it might be the best offenses looked this season to me as a whole, if you want to take a 40-minute window. I really enjoy the shots that were being taken. But like you said, in the third period, they play this defensive style where they're like, okay, we're just going to keep the lead. We won't worry about scoring. We just won't let them score. They come back. And then I think Marchand scored in overtime with 25, 26 seconds left. Elias Lindholm was down beyond the goalie and sends it out front. Marchand gets a couple cracks and puts it past them. But that goes to a shootout, and God only knows what'll happen in the shootout.
And the Bruins are not usually good at shootouts in recent years. Mm-hmm. So that could have snuck away from the Bruins real quick, and Marchand scored with 20 seconds to go in OT. You're right. 40 minutes, that looked like a dominant offensive performance. I mean, the passing was so much better.
Yep.
The tape-to-tape passes were so easier to look at. They looked easier to make. I loved the Hampus Lindholm goal in the first period. Pasternak throws it to the middle. Hampus Lindholm with the most beautiful deke, fooling Wolf and throwing it backhand on into the net there. It was a nice play. The second one, I mean, it was kind of a broken play. Pasternak, the puck popped up 20 feet in the air, and Zacha settled it down and just ripped it.
Did you notice how the puck was just like Zacha almost waited a second? The puck was rolling, and he waited for it to come to a situation where he felt comfortable shooting it. It was a very patient play by him.
Yeah, he just waited for it, settled it down, let it rip, and he scored. And it blew by Wolf. He didn't see it. He was like what? What just happened?
Yeah.
And then the third one, that's just good effort. That's good speed. Coyle looking, he had Koepke to his left. He looked to center, had Koepke in front, made it 3-1. And then the forecheck in overtime, the Elias Lindholm game win, the Marchand game winner. Lindholm with the good forecheck behind the net, forcing a turnover. He centers it in front. Marchand's first try was stopped. Second one goes in. Bruins pull out a W against the Flames, who are off to a good start, not so much anymore, but the Bruins come out and they take 2 points, and they deserved it.
You get to a point where a win is a win. I know they won in overtime. They won very last minute. And again, you could say that the goaltending kind of bailed them out of this one too. I know Korpisalo let in 3 goals, but other than that first one, I thought he did pretty well. That first one was kind of soft, I'm not going to lie. But other than the first one, I thought he played pretty well. The other 2 goals, sometimes shit happens. But, yeah, if Korpisalo didn't play as good as he did last night, then I think we're talking about a different outcome today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with that first goal, that was bad. Like, it was right out the face-off. Korpisalo's positioning was not good. He was committed too far to his left post, and the puck went to his right post.
Yeah.
And he wasn't expecting the shot. He wasn't expecting the positioning to be out of sorts. And that was a bad one. But the second goal that went in for Calgary was like a pinball. It kind of deflected like 16 times. Great tip by Sharon Govich. All right, fine. The third goal, you're going to let up goals like that. Your defense was giving you nothing. Kadri just split right through the defense and goes top shelf. What are you going to do?
Well, exactly. You're only as good as the players in front of you. And I know Korpisalo is coming from Ottawa to Boston. Boston was supposed to have bulked up their defense, but I think we're still yet to see the true potential of this team with the way the defense has been playing.
What the Bruins need, David, is consistency. And going from this game, the Kraken game, to the Leafs game, to the Flames game, that's not consistent. The Kraken game and the Flyers game were consistency. 2 straight dominant performances. You shut them out for the most part. This was bad against the Leafs. And then the Flames, you were dominant, then you weren't, then you were. So it's like, I need to see a 60-minute effort, and I am still saying it. We are 1 month into the season. I have not seen a 60-minute effort out of this Bruins team once.
Yeah.
Once. Like, the Flyers game, that was like a 55-minute effort because the first 5 minutes, they were awful. And then they finally started taking shots on the net, and then they made it like 8-2 in the shots department. That's when they really started to wake it up. So no 60-minute efforts yet. I haven't seen it. And
no, fully agree.
Tomorrow against Ottawa should be really interesting. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. Roster moves. So let's talk about some stuff that's been happening in the week. Max Jones put on waivers earlier in the week and is assigned to Providence as he clears waivers. So he's down in the American League. Look, Max Jones did not have a great start to this season. He was in and out of the lineup. He had 4 games played. He didn't have a point. He had a -4 rating, 8 penalty minutes, was kind of just there. He wasn't doing anything to add to the game, which is why he was sent down.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think they made the right call with sending Tufte down first.
Right.
And I think Max Jones was the easy choice here. I believe they signed Tufte to only a 1-year deal, and I do believe that Johnson is a 2-year deal at a cap hit of $2 million per year. I want to say
Max Jones is 1 year, is 2 years at $1 million.
2 years. Okay, so it's 2 years at $2 million in full. Okay, so $1 million per year. So yeah, they're gonna have to hide that in the minors. I'm sure that they hope that he comes back. Again, he was a first-round pick. There is potential there somewhere. It's one of those situations where if it's not Jones, who else is it? and he's been playing a lot worse than any of the other forwards, in my opinion. And if you're going to sign Tyler Johnson, somebody got to go.
Yeah, and I think Max Jones was the easy target to get out of the lineup there. He wasn't doing anything for me.
Yeah.
And I remember right here on this very program, Mark, Dom, and I were hyping this signing up. Oh, this is going to be a great signing. I love the addition of Max Jones. It's really good. He's going to be a sneaky bottom six guy who can score 20 goals. We said that right here in this program. I am here to confirm to you that shit was so wrong. We were so wrong on that for so many different reasons. That was terrible. We completely overhyped Max Jones. The guy is just, he's whatever, in my opinion. He's kind of whatever. I think a good stint in the AHL will only do wonders for him. And I think we're starting to see that out of Riley Tufte, who got sent down. He's already got a couple of goals in Providence. So, hey, look, if this works out and this guy gets red hot and we can't deny him Frank Vetrano style, bring him up and see what happens. But until then, I'm not convinced, and I'm kind of glad he's down in the minors because he wasn't adding anything of purpose onto the NHL roster.
It's like you said, it was such an easy decision. It seems like everyone else has stepped up. And I believe at the beginning of the season, everyone was kind of touching on, there's one too many forwards. Is it going to be Tufte? Is it going to be Jones? Is it going to be Brazeau? And then Tyler Johnson comes into the mix. So now now there's too many forwards. So now what do we do? Tufte goes down. And then, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be more of a battle between guys like Jones and Kepke and Kostelik and did I say Brazeau already? Yeah. Okay. So like between those three, I really think that a lot of people thought this would be a closer race, but everyone else just blew him out of the water. Like I feel like it was a very easy decision.
And it's crazy because 6 weeks ago, right here on this podcast, we were not confident that Justin Brazeau would even be a consistent in the NHL lineup. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Brazeau is our second line right wing right now.
Yep.
And he deserves it because he's been busting his ass recently. He's averaging a goal every 2 games in his last 8. So
he's been talking about he said on Twitter, I saw it on Twitter. It was in one of the recordings he did. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he said, I know if I get in the right position that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's paying off. He's getting in the right spot and he's getting rewarded for it.
And he's playing with, last night, Elias Lindholm and Brad Marchand. That's invaluable experience. That is so, I can't express how valuable that is to a young guy not young. He's not really crazy young, but he's when it comes to NHL speak. But when it comes to, the experience, Lindholm and Marchand have been there, done that, right? Brazeau, this is going to be his first full year in the NHL. You know what I mean? Like, that's why having him there is so good for him, and he's been proving himself to be deservedly so in that spot. We've seen him play with Coyle and Zacha, and I liked that trio together. I liked what I saw out of him last night with Lindholm and Marchand. Brazeau just fits naturally right in there.
I feel like a lot of it is he plays within himself. And if I remember correctly, that's kind of what Marchand talked about that he wanted from that right wing on the second line was don't try to do too much. Just play within yourself. Be who we need you to be. He's a big body. He's getting to the right spots. Realistically, a guy like that, he's 26, by the way, Sam. I just looked it up.
Yeah,
so
right.
He has been around the block a few times, but he still seems, I agree, it still seems like he's one of the young guys. He looks a lot faster this year. I think he looks a lot more comfortable this year, but he's one of those guys that as long as you put him with offensive-minded players, he's going to fit in there somewhere. He's going to make sure that it works. I love the way his mindset is. He knows I don't have to do too much. I just got to go out here and be me, and people are going to help me. But like you said, playing with guys like Marchand and Coyle and Zacha and Lindholm, like these are stud players. Like, yeah, maybe they're not first liners, but they are every day. I've been here for, 5 to 10 years. They're going to make you better no matter what, as long as you're willing to play the game that you need to play.
Yeah, which is why Justin Brazeau has earned himself the spot that he's in. But hey, Max Jones was not the only roster move that was made. this week. The Bruins finally pulled the trigger, and they signed Tyler Johnson. They finally did it. And I'll tell you what, second game with the Bruins, they put him on the top line with Zacha and Pasternak last night, and he looked pretty good. He wasn't adding anything like too crazy, but he just looked like naturally he was supposed to be in that spot. Like he fit. He played with Zacha pretty well. I think he and Pasternak will get that chemistry as it comes. But he just looked like he was naturally supposed to be there, David.
He's one of those guys. He's been around the block, right? Like he's early 30s at this point. He waited for his opportunity. All the fans have been waiting for this as well. And finally, here it is. Like you said, the Jim Montgomery blender continues. Third line, first line. Next game, tomorrow, he's probably on the second line. It's just, it continues to roll. But Johnson is another one of those guys. I'm not going to say he's like Brazo, but he knows what he's supposed to do. He's been around the block. He's a vet. He knows his game. He knows what's expected of him at this point. And I agree with you. I think that as long as Montgomery can get him out of the blender for a while, the chemistry will work between him and Pasta. But I thought, touching on a little other point there, but Zacha and Pasternak looked really good together last night. But yeah, you can play Johnson on the wing. You can play him at center. You can put him in a couple different roles. I feel like he could play a couple different spots on the ice, whether it's on the wall, in the center of the ice. There's a couple options with this guy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all works.
He's kind of he's this year's version of Danton Heinen. You know, he can play first line and provide there. He can play fourth line and provide there. He can fill anywhere in that lineup that you need him to fill in, and he'll do a good job at that. I think that is so valuable to a team. You know, you need your utility guys. Like the Red Sox in 2018, they had Brock Holt, a utility player who could play everywhere in the lineup. He was an outfielder. He could play second base. He could play shortstop if need be at a moment's notice. Hell, he was a pitcher for a little bit.
He's comfortable doing it too. There's no ego with this dude. He doesn't care if he's on the first line or the fourth line. He don't care what's expected of him. He goes out there and does exactly what the game plan says to do. And you need players like that in your lineup, especially when you have some big personalities like a Pasternak and like a Zadorov and guys like this. You need some people who are just going to come in and lead by example. You can go ask him questions, but chances are he's not going to say too much.
Yeah. So Johnson is signed with the team now, and I want to see him in the lineup every night. You know, I kind of want to see him back in there, and and if that means that Morgan Geekie isn't in the lineup for a little bit, then so be it. Because Johnson was doing stuff that Geekie was never doing on the Bruins in the lineup, creating offense, creating opportunities for himself. And if there's the next man to be sent down and put on waivers, it's Morgan Geekie.
It has to be.
It has to be. And it sucks because I wanted him to do well, but he is not doing he has not had a good start to this season.
I think you're going to see, I wouldn't be surprised just because where Tyler Johnson is just now getting his feet wet with playing against competition. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him get a night off sometime within this next week just to kind of rest his body. Morgan Geekie pops in just for a breather. And they just give him a break here and there. Whoever that 13th forward is, whether it's Morgan Geekie, whether they bring Jones back up or, someone off the street, whatever they want to do there. I think you'll see Tyler Johnson get a break here and there. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So, there were some rumors coming out. I think was it Tuesday? Yeah, I think it was Tuesday about Trent Frederick. Apparently, Kevin Weeks tweeted out that there are many suitors that would possibly be interested in Trent Frederick. Now, he's an expiring UFA at the end of the season. He hasn't had an amazing start. He's been better in the past couple games, but still nothing like super crazy.
Yeah.
Look, we talked about it last week on this show that Trent Frederick, if they were to possibly put together a package, could go to St. Louis, go back home and play for the Blues. I personally, I don't know how to feel about it because there were some rumors about him being a trade target or a top player to go after in free agency. David, what are your thoughts on Frederic?
If you look at what Kevin Weeks said specifically, he did mention that these suitors were looking at after the season, so during the off season. It's more so they're more interested in him as a signing rather than a trade piece. I think that's going to make it a little bit tricky with the trade market as well. Obviously, Sam, we're not behind closed doors. We don't know how it all works, but we know that he's an expiring contract. So unless there's some sort of handshake agreement that says he's going to sign with the team that he gets traded to, the package could be a little bit less if he does get traded. A guy like Trent Frederic, assuming he lives up to potential, there's a ton of spots that he could fit. Like you said, he could go and play for St. Louis. There's 29 other teams he could go play for and fit in somewhere on that team. It's just a matter of how bad do the Bruins want him? Is there any sort of package that they could attach him to, or any package that they could get for him that they feel comfortable with? It's a very random rumor for Kevin Weeks to put out. It's not something I expected to hear in November that they were going to start talking about the off season with Trent Frederic. So it's a little out of place for me, but again, it's one of those storylines that'll be interesting to follow leading up to the trade deadline.
And I'm wondering, I'll read you the tweet verbatim from Kevin Weeks. It says, he says, quote, "In speaking to sources, several teams are interested in pending UFA Trent Frederic after this season. With his size, speed, toughness, character, and skill, he's drawing attention in the marketplace." Based off the start we're seeing out of Frederic, what are we talking about? He only has one goal, and he has maybe a few assists. He hasn't done a ton. I mean, the size, sure. The speed, sure. Toughness, yeah. Character, yeah, he's a great guy. Skill, there hasn't been a ton out of Frederic so far. So I don't know what these executives are seeing. I mean, they don't watch this team every night like you or I do, or people watching at home or listening at home do. I don't understand why there's so much talk about Frederic. I just don't.
It's interesting. And I'm just as confused as you are. Again, considering we're in November, if this was like April and he had, a much better end of the season here and the rumblings were starting then, sure. Is it some sort of scare tactic to try to get the Bruins to move off of him, or, kind of get the wheels turning to see what kind of numbers they're looking at for an extension? I mean, I guess it's possible. It just seems like a very out of place rumor right now. And like you said, it's not a big name player in the grand scheme of things. It's Trent Frederic. He's not doing anything right now. This is not like, oh, where's Stamkos going to go in the out? This is nothing like that. This is just like a random run of the mill guy.
He literally played on the fourth line last night with Kastelik and Beecher because they put Kepke with Patra and Coyle. Again, line blender, but still, 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points in 15 games, and has a -10 rating. What are we seeing?
Where's the skill?
Where is it? Where is it? I understand he had the greatest season of his career last year. Great. Not so far this year. No, he's not. That was then. This is now. I'm not seeing anything now. I'm not. I'll pull up I'll read you a graphic that we've used this stuff before. Mark Gussie on Instagram. Top 10 teams in the race for Trent Frederic. The teams that he thinks are actively pursuing him: Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Detroit, Anaheim, LA, Calgary, Columbus, Buffalo, and the Islanders. Well, Chicago, that would just be hilariously funny because of all the Blackhawks that are former Bruins on that team.
Right.
Hall, Foligno, Bertuzzi, Donato. I can go on for days. St. Louis, the hometown team there. He's from the St. Louis area. Philadelphia, I mean, he would kind of fit their play style, I think. A grinder, Red Wings, I don't see it because they don't play in a play style that Frederic would fit into. And the rest of this list is kind of whatever. I'm not buying it. Sorry, Kevin. I like you. I'm not buying these rumors here. I don't know.
I'd like to know where the sources are coming from.
Yeah, I would like to know. I'm kind of wondering, and this is a good point that that Sharon brought up. Frederick has 3 points in 15 games and it's a -10. I wonder if his agent is putting something out there. Possibly. That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I'm kind of wondering if that's what's really going on here. That it's not it's not anything to say, oh my God, I need to give this guy $3 million when I get my checkbook out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't know. I said I was going to give him a 3-year deal at $3 million during this offseason when we're talking about it. Now I'm not even paying him. Now I'm not. Because
it's almost like an addition by subtraction at this point. If you got 3 points and you're a -10, then obviously the team is better with you off the ice than they are on the ice. Like you said, there's certain teams that kind of fit the mold. But if you think about it, like the Blackhawks, the Flyers, even the Blues, like, why are teams like this going to go after a guy who is apparently sought after so badly? You would think it would be more of like someone who thinks they can win next year. I don't think either of those three teams are thinking about competing next year. Just, it seems so out of place. I really don't understand it.
I don't get it, which is why I'm not going to believe it. So I'm going to shut that rumor down real quick. I'm going to say, no, it doesn't make sense. And if you think it makes sense, stop for a second. Think about this. Bottom 6 guy hasn't really done much. There's multiple suitors out for this guy who has a -10 rating in 15 games to start the season. Think about that. That's not something that I would want on my team. I don't know about you, but that's not something I would want on my team. It's weird that Montgomery keeps benching Geekie and Frederick hasn't sat a game, especially since he's been moved to the 4th line. And in some nights, Sharon, Frederick's been better. Geekie's been better than Frederick. And they're both getting paid practically the same contract. So I'm not understanding why they're benching Geekie and Frederick isn't getting benched. Maybe it's because Frederick's done something this year, but even then, it's not enough. I don't know. I'm not buying it. Anyways, next up, Mason Lohrei. Talk about a guy who's been in and out of the lineup. I hate to start rumors about a guy, but do we think that he might be in the doghouse with Montgomery? Or is he getting the Matt Poitras treatment? You know what I mean? Or getting protected because he's young. Because before the injury to Andrew Peeke, he has been in and out of the lineup. Well, and he shouldn't be in and out of the lineup, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where if you look at last year, I thought he ended last year on a great note. I thought he looked great in the playoffs. He's big, he's fast. People were talking about having him as like the quarterback on the #1 power play and having him up on the first line for the defense and all these things. And now all of a sudden he's played 11 games. Now, when he does play, he does average, the classic third pairing minutes when he does play. But the issue seems to be how many games he's playing. I looked up a couple things. He's averaging around 16 and a half minutes a game. 16 and a half minutes of ice time a game.
Right.
Comparatively, Peeke is averaging 16, Carlo's at 18, and then Zadorov, Lindholm, McAvoy are well above with their ranging between 19 and 23. He's only played 11 games, and I think that's where the issue comes in. Now, you can look at it a couple different ways. Maybe they really like Wotherspoon. Maybe they want to get him more run. Maybe there's some sort of nagging injury thing that we don't know about that they're keeping hidden. Or based on the first couple games when I think he ended up getting benched after the first game. He took the second night off, right?
He was not playing in the home opener against Montreal. He didn't play. Yeah,
so then you got to look at maybe it is a performance-based thing, but it just seems like a very quick turnaround from what was happening at the end of last season compared to the start of this season. And I guess maybe we shouldn't even question it with the way that Jim Montgomery's been running his lines. Maybe it's something we shouldn't even try to figure out because I don't think anyone knows. But I don't know if doghouse is the right terminology to use right now. I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough confidence in an answer to determine why he's been sitting.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. This is a weird one because like Lohrei has been good so far this season. He had a couple of like bad games, but for the most part, in like 8 or 9 of his 11 games, he's been good. And I can count on one hand how many good games the Zadorov has had this year. You see the preferential treatment that's going on here, right? I don't understand. I really don't understand what the holdup is with Lohrei getting benched. It doesn't make sense. It will never make sense. I think he's a really good player who doesn't deserve to be benched. I don't know. I'll pull up his stats and see if that's a story, but I don't think so. His defensive play's been good. He's been good on the back check. He's been good with the puck. He's been doing more right than wrong, and from my eyes, and I cover this team. I watch this team every night. 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points in 11 games. That's more than Trent Frederic.
What's the plus minus?
-1.
Yeah, which again is much better than Trent Frederic.
And Frederick's in the lineup every night, and Lohrei isn't.
I don't know if it has something to do with the like I know that a couple of people talked about a couple bad turnovers that he had and things, but like you said, I think the right outrules the wrong in this situation. I think he's done way more good than bad.
Yeah, I mean, Carlo's had 3 own goals in the past 9 days of play. And we're not talking about benching Carlo because, like, again, does it more good than bad. But, like, there's no way they're giving him the Matt Patra treatment, right? Do you understand what I'm talking about when I said the Matt Patra treatment?
Go ahead and explain.
So the Matt Patra treatment is, let's protect him because he's young. He doesn't get in the third period of games. Like last year, we would never see Patra in the third period in a close game. We never would. Never. You want to know why? Because they wanted the more experienced guys out there. Let me preface this by saying Mason Lohrei has 52 career NHL games. Wotherspoon has just about 100. Maybe a little less than that, right? So there's not much more experience there. Wotherspoon has 59 career games. That's 7 more than Lohrei. I don't understand. I don't get it. Now, I understand they're both going to have to play because Peake's hurt now for the next 2 weeks at least.
Right.
And by the way, Pacioretty should have got kicked out for that hit. That's my thoughts on that. Anyways, I don't understand. I don't understand for this preferential treatment of Wotherspoon over Lohrei. I mean, I love Wotherspoon, great defender. Lohrai's a better two-way defenseman than Wotherspoon is, and we need more of that.
Yeah.
So this doesn't make sense. And this brings up my next point. Since Peake's hurt, you only have 6 defensemen on your roster now because Peake's probably going to be put on IR for at least a little bit. So who do you bring up? Do you bring up Osterley? I mean, do you bring up Sweezy? Do you dare bring up Ian Mitchell or Callahan? I mean, Regula's already hurt. So I would probably bring up Osterley, right? He's been the best defenseman down in Providence.
You'd almost have to think that they're going to sign someone. You can't go in with 6 defensemen every night. Osterley, I feel like he probably has the inside track. I feel like he probably has the most NHL experience as well. So maybe just like a placeholder until someone gets back. Maybe he's going to be like the swing guy between Providence and Boston when it comes to defensemen. Or they could take a shot on a guy like Sweezy. I wouldn't be entirely upset to see a guy like him get a shot just to see what he's capable of.
Montgomery said they weren't calling up anyone right now. Here's my thing about that. If they don't call anybody up before tomorrow night's game and someone gets hurt, God forbid, They're down to 5 defensemen now. They will be forced to call somebody up because they do not want to ice 13 forwards, 5 defensemen. Not a good idea. Don't do it. So I don't even think they can do that. But actually, yes, they can. But they don't do that. Not a good idea. I would always have a backup defenseman there. I don't like that. I don't like it. So
no, I agree.
I just don't like the way they're treating the defense right now. Like, number one, the defense sucks right now. It has not been consistent. Zadorov can't stay out of the box. McAvoy can't stay out of the box. Carlo can't stop putting pucks in his own net. Lohrei can't get on the ice for more than 2 games if his life depended on it. And Wotherspoon has been in and out of the lineup all season. There's one guy I didn't name there who has been the best defenseman on the Bruins roster this entire season, Hampus Lindholm. And it's not close. The reason why, his back check has been better, his offense has been better, his offensive mind as a defenseman's been better, and his overall play has been better, which is why Lindholm has not gotten the boot yet. He hasn't been benched. And I knew this would happen. Lindholm is finally having a resurrection of his career type start to this season.
Yeah, we talked about it on one of the first podcasts that I was on, that I really thought that Lindholm had some sort of nagging injury going on last year. And I do believe that a portion, well, I guess there's 2 things. One of the things is I believe he's fully healthy, but it's also, I think he's just, again, more comfortable with the system. You saw flashes of it last year, but I feel like you're really seeing the real thing now.
Yeah, 2 years ago, you saw a really good defenseman out of Lindholm who was a Norris finalist, like a Norris candidate. He was top 5 in voting, if I'm not mistaken. His plus minus was through the roof. And the reason why was because you had a defensive coach behind the bench. Last year, you didn't have that. Now you do. You're seeing it on the ice. Lindholm's coming out and having a great start. He's already got 3 goals, which leads the defenseman and team in goals, I'm pretty sure. Or if not, it's tied with McAvoy. He's pretty close. So I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Lohrei. Speaking of out of Lindholm, and I hope Lohrei stays more consistent in the lineup, even with Peak coming back. Speaking of defensemen, Loke Johansson signed his entry-level contract yesterday. Hey, I was kind of surprised about this, speaking that we just drafted this guy over the summer, 6th-round pick out of Sweden. He's playing up in the QMJHL with the Moncton Wildcats. But hey, this is kind of a surprise. I kind of liked what I saw out of him out of the rookie development camp when he was playing in Prospects Challenge in Buffalo. But are we surprised to see him sign his entry level this early?
I feel like I'm not overly familiar with the prospects, and of course, this is where we miss Dom the most. Dom mentioned on Twitter that the contract is an entry-level contract. It won't start burning years until 26, 27 because he was signed as an 18-year-old rather than a 19-year-old. I also noticed that there was mention, I can't remember if it was Dom or someone else, but they said that the annual average is $880,000, but because of bonuses, signing bonuses and other things, that cap it can drop the more years he goes before he actually starts playing. Currently playing in Moncton. To me, it was a bit of a surprise. It's just not the guy that I thought would sign right now. I don't know much about him other than the fact that he's a defense first type of defenseman. He's got some size. He's 6'3", 214 pounds. So, he fits that Bruins mold of a big defensive guy. I'm sure there's a lot of potential. He's still a young kid. So, it could be a couple of years before we really see what he's capable of. But it'd be interesting to see what he does either later this year or next year. If he goes to Maine, if he starts the year in Providence, he'll be a fun one to follow now that he's signed to that entry level deal.
Yeah, he's got 1 goal and 4 assists for 5 points so far this season in the QMJHL. Last year he played for the AIK of the Swedish J20 National League, and he had 5 goals and 8 assists for 13 points last year. He also played with AIK of the Hockey Allsvenskan during the 23-24 season. He played 19 games and getting an assist there. So we'll see what kind of happens. We're not expecting to see a ton of points out of this guy, but hey, look, they took a chance at him. He's a 6th-round pick out of Sweden, and we'll see how he pans out coming down the stretch here. I mean, it's a 3-year entry level. His entry level will be up at the end of the 26-27 season. So I wonder how that's going to look. I wonder if he, in that 3 years, he thinks he can be pro by the end of that 3-year deal, which I'm hoping so, obviously, right?
Yeah, for sure. Also, I'm not overly familiar with that whole NCAA CHL thing, but he doesn't qualify for that, so he can come. Like if he wanted to go playing for Maine tomorrow, he could. There'd be nothing that would keep him from doing that right now.
Yeah, because he's not in the CHL.
Yeah,
he's in the QMJHL, so that doesn't apply.
Yeah.
So there's that. Very interesting there. So about that whole thing, the NCAA approving D1 CHL approval there. So should be very interesting to see how that works, to see if CHL guys go over to the NCAA next year and start playing some college puck next year. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe he'll go pro in this 3-year deal. Maybe next year he'll go pro. Maybe he's going for a year of junior level and he'll go pro. We'll see. This is a weird one. This is a very interesting topic we're about to get into, and it's not something we usually discuss on this show, but we'll talk about it here today. There was an article that came out from the New York Post that says that the Bruins keep losing because of Massachusetts state income tax, according to the Mass Opportunity Alliance. In this article, it says the Mass Opportunity Alliance is blaming the Bruins championship drought on the state of Massachusetts' tax policies. The Bruins, who last hoisted this Lord Stanley Cup in 2011, are losing out on top talent who prefer to play in states with lower taxes, so they walk away with more income in pockets. The group noted that 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cup winners and 7 of the last 10 to make it to the final round hail from states with no state income tax. I would like to note Florida and Nevada do not have state income tax. Neither does Texas, who made the Stanley Cup final back in the COVID year of 2020. This is weird, and this is interesting. It keeps going. So playing in Boston comes with significant greater cost to the players compared to those with no income tax states. Brad Marchand earned $5 million before taxes in last season. But after being levied in a state income tax, his take-home pay was just under $3 million. However, if he had signed with a team in Nevada, Washington, so if he had signed with Vegas, the Kraken, Tampa or Florida or Dallas, he would have walked home with $400,000 more at $3.3 million. David Pastrnak earned an annual salary of $13 million last year. If he were a member of the Stars, Golden Knights, Kraken, Panthers, or Lightning, his net income would have been $7.97 million. But he only got $6.884 with the Bruins last season because of the state income tax. That's almost half your salary, David. That's insane.
We wonder about why players are signing these big contracts and why, other players tell them to go and get the bag, go get as much as you can. And then you look at these deals and it's like, oh, he's making $13 million. Well, is he really? Yeah, the gross pay versus the net pay is a very different thing. I'm glad you brought up the point about the fact that the 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cup winners have been out of these states, and 7 of the last 10 to make it to the Stanley Cup finals have been out of these states. I don't think it's a coincidence at this point. Like maybe we're all just blowing this way out of proportion, but it really seems like it has something to do with it. Destinations are never going to change. Like there are going to be certain places that people are going to want to play. New York, people are going to want to go to places like Florida because of temperature. They're going to want to go to Vegas and California and things like that. But this is really going to help teams that do have the higher income tax to have a better chance at landing some of these guys. And obviously, maybe everyone thinks that we're just crybabies because we did sign Lindholm and Zadorov and things like that this year. But, there's a chance that we might be able to sign more now. And I think it puts a bit of an even playing field down that is not really the GM's fault and it's not the player's fault. You can't help where the team is. You can't help what the state does. So it's not one of those things, as I've said multiple times today, that it'll be interesting to follow and see how this goes. Bettman did say that they're going to start talking specifics in early 2025, but a change like that would really benefit some of these teams.
That is, I wonder if that's why. You know what I mean? I wonder if that's the reason why a lot of these guys aren't signing with the Bruins, not because they wouldn't win, it's because, more take-home money.
More money.
Which makes me realize right now, just thinking about it, that the NHL is more of a business than I thought it was. And sports are more of a business than I thought it was because of taxes. Which leads me to my next point, the CBA coming up. It expires in September of 26. So we're still ways away from that, but I know Bettman, we're going to be talking about the new CBA agreement starting next year. You'd have to think that this would have to come up because we've only seen this in the past few years about big stars signing in non-state income tax states because of they're getting more money in their pocket.
Absolutely. You're seeing it in all sports too.
Did you turn your mic off?
Yeah, I hit a button. I'm sorry.
Whoa.
It's not just NHL. You're seeing this in the NBA. You're seeing it in the NFL. You're seeing it at all levels. MLB as well. All these players are signing with teams that you're taking home more money, and it'd be very hard to think that this wouldn't be a factor. I guess a lot of players don't talk about it, but it's definitely something that they think about. Like, is there a big difference between 7.5 million and 6.8? For a lot of people, yeah, that's a lot of money. I know people are saying, well, 6.8 is still a lot of money. Yeah, it is, but 7.5 is a lot more. The CBA talks, like you said, the CBA runs out in 26. Bettman, I think it was Bettman that mentioned that he doesn't think they're going to get to a point where they're getting close. They think they're going to figure out a deal before the next CBA ends. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the new CBA come in 2025. But yeah, the tax talks have to be included in this.
Yeah, because this can't be happening.
Yeah.
A CBA without I wonder how do they even address that? Like, which is why a lot of people are. Well, I know you're Canadian. This is why not a lot of people are signing in Canada because of how high the taxes are up in Canada. This is why you're not seeing a lot of people sign in Boston because of how high the taxes are in Massachusetts. This is a really interesting point that I never really think about because it's kind of like, oh, they didn't sign with my team, screw them. No, it's probably because it's not screw them. It's probably because, which team could I go to that I could make the most money with per season without taxes being taken out, And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of players go to Florida, go to Nevada, go to Dallas, go to those types of places because there's no state income tax. Of course, there's federal income tax in the United States. Everybody pays that. Everybody gets taxes taken out of their paychecks. That happens everywhere, which is why I said that if Pastrnak were to play in these non-income tax states, you wouldn't get the full $13 million because of federal income tax.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if that changes soon. I'm not sure how they're going to change that and everything, but so that's not a thing. However, you still save yourself some money due to state income tax not being applied. So this is a really good point. Players who play with deferred pay have less taxes to pay in the long run. So this leads me to believe that the AAV is what the salary cap hit is, but certain players make more money in certain years of the contracts. They don't have to pay they don't have to pay more taxes in certain years.
Yeah.
So it's a really weird and kind of a certain niche of a topic. Do you understand what I'm like? It's very I don't know. I don't know. It's just a really weird topic,
I'm glad that you mentioned about the players who play in Canada, because I'm no tax specialist. I don't know exactly how it works, but there's actually like a double federal tax too. So they have to
Oh,
pay federal taxes in the US and federal tax in Canada. So like if you're going to play for the Maple Leafs, you're paying Canadian tax and USA tax. So like basically Canadian teams always have to overpay to compete because of the amount of money that players can make. So it's similar to this, but still to play for a Canadian team, yeah, Canadian teams usually do have to pay more. It was a very common theme with the Raptors and the NBA. They were, well, still are the only Canadian team. So to get players to come here, we always had to overpay players because it was they'd save a lot more if they stayed in the States. So we'd have to overpay, be like, we'll give you not double, but a lot more than any other team. And it's always like, oh, the Raptors are overpaying all these players. Well, same thing as NHL. You're getting to a point where you don't have a choice. If you want to compete, you gotta sign these players to the lucrative deals to keep them in town.
Yeah, you have to pay these guys more, which is why you have to offer more. Yep. And they're still not taking it. Like Elias Lindholm, right? Signs with the Bruins after being in Calgary and Vancouver for most of his career. You have to wonder, was he trying to escape Canadian double federal tax there? You have to wonder, like, all these things. And I wonder if the agents are in their heads about that stuff, I don't know. I hate to speculate and all that stuff, but, like, that could be some of the reason why.
Absolutely.
Anyway, hate to bore you with tax talk, but, like, that could be definitely some of the reason. So if we see a lot of players not signing in Canada or not signing with these big market teams that have federal income tax or state income tax, we'll know why. More money to pocket. So let's see if the players we pay actually show up, because we have an upcoming few games here, including tomorrow night, which tomorrow night, in my opinion, is the biggest game of the season to date. The return of Ullmark. Tomorrow night, Swayman versus Ullmark, the first time. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. at TD Garden, Bruins and Senators. Are we expecting a video tribute for Ullmark tomorrow night?
I think I could see it. I'd like to see it, to be honest. He was a total professional the entire time he was here. He did his job great, and he was a very valuable asset to have. And I think that showed true for most of the time that he was here. He was solid in net the entire time. He became, you could almost call him like a mentor to Swayman, and Swayman called him his best friend.
He was, yeah.
Mark is not going to like this, but I would love to see a goalie hug at center ice before or after the game.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Easy, but I think it would be fantastic to see that.
That'd be great.
Ottawa's 6-7-0. Stützle, Tkachuk, and Batherson lead the team in points. Ullmark is actually 2-4 with the 3 goals against and only an .892 save percentage. I expected them to be a little bit better, but again, they're trending upwards, but they got a long way to go. Forsberg has been slightly better. He's been 3-3, 2.7 goals against with 905 save percentage. I would love to see Mark Kastelik have a fantastic game. If it wasn't such a big deal regarding the Swayman versus Ullmark, I think it also would have been a great chance to get Korpisalo in against his old team. But I have a feeling we might see Korpisalo when we travel to Ottawa to play him up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what the plan is. I think they're going to do Korpisalo versus Ullmark. Or maybe they'll do Korpisalo versus Forsberg and try to make their own goalie tandem reunion thing.
There you go.
I don't know. But that should be very interesting tomorrow night. I do agree. I want to see Mark Kastelik have a hat trick and have a great night tomorrow night. I want to see it. I'm all in on Kastelik. I want to see that. Hey, you know what? Ottawa's struggling, and you know what? I'll tell you what about the Ullmark stats thing, right? Here's my thing about Ullmark. The reason why Ullmark is not doing too well is the same reason why Korpisalo didn't do well in Ottawa last year. Their defense got worse. There's no defense in front of them.
Yeah.
They got worse. They got rid of Chychrun, their best guy. Like, Shabbat, whatever. Brandstrom's not there anymore. Chikrin's not there anymore. They don't have a consistent defense. And don't tell me Jake Sanderson deserves all that $7 million that he got. I'm not buying it. I haven't seen enough. All right. Same with Matthias Samuelsson for the Sabres. He got like a big contract before he even played an NHL game or something stupid like that. It was insane. But yeah, so Ottawa's defense is kind of whatever. Their offense is pretty good. They scored 8 goals against the Kings a few weeks ago. But again, I don't know. It's either going to be a shootout or I like this one. I hope both Ullmark and Swayman get shutouts with the Bruins winning in a shootout.
Whoa.
1-0 Bruins in the shootout is my personal favorite take. I like that one. I like that idea a lot, actually. I do. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I don't think I think tomorrow should be a very fun but somewhat emotional night, if you will. Ullmark and Swayman reuniting for the first time on the ice since the trade went down over the summer, sending Ullmark to Ottawa for Korpisalo, Kastelik, and what would go on to be Dean Letourneau. Then on Tuesday, the Bruins go out to the Midwest. They'll take on the Blues Tuesday night out in St. Louis. Hey, this should be a pretty fun game. Bruins and Blues. It'll be Swayman or Korpisalo versus Bichetown. I mean Binnington. I'm sorry. I mean Binnington. Sorry. But yes, Binnington will probably be in net for the Blues unless they put out, oh God, what's his name? The backup.
Hofer.
Joel Hofer.
Yeah.
Yes. What are we expecting out of the Blues on this game against the Blues next Tuesday?
Yeah, I like the fact that they're getting that extra day rest between a Saturday game and a Tuesday game. So chances are, I know we spoke about it earlier, I don't think you'll see Tyler Johnson sitting for this one. I think you'll see him in the lineup on that extra day rest. St. Louis is 7-7-1. Broberg, Kyrou, and Buchnevich lead the team in scoring. Binnington's been 4-5 with a 2.7 goals against and 904 save percentage. Hofer's 3-2 with a 3.3 goals against and a 904 save percentage. It is a little bit sad we won't get to see Torrey Krug. Loved him as a Bruin. I hope he's doing well. I know he's on IR at this point, but I hope he is recovering well. Hopefully he's able to come back and be the player that he used to be. But yeah, I feel like we obviously, because we do a weekly podcast, we look at everything in weeks. But I feel like every week we need to see some sort of improvement. Where that improvement is yet to be seen. But, I just want to see an improvement somewhere. Keep everything else pretty static. Just let me see an improvement somewhere, whether that's the penalty kill, the power play. I think they've looked fast. I think they've looked connected. I think the passing has looked crisp. I really enjoyed that game against the Flames for the offense. So maybe we could see the defense pick it up now over the next couple of games and kind of match the intensity of the offense. I want Montgomery, if we go up multiple goals in any of these games, if we go up and have a 2-goal lead, I don't want to see them sit back and kind of let the game come to them. I want to see them push it, and I want to see them score more goals. This whole sitting back on their heels is not working. They need to change the game plan when they get a multi-goal lead.
Yeah, and I think they need to do that. I was looking at Broberg's stats. What? 2 goals, 7 assists for 9 points in 12 games and a +6 rating? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's what they gave up? That's what the Oilers gave up to an offer sheet? Blues, you're looking much better by the day. Jeez. Oh, and then he's not even been in the lineup every night. My God. By the way, speaking of offer sheets, prayers up to Dylan Holloway for the Blues. He got a puck to the throat or the neck or something like that the other day. Hopefully he's going to make a full speedy recovery. So Godspeed. But yeah, the Blues, hey, they're 7-7. They're practically the same record as the Bruins without that overtime loss. So they're kind of in the same spot, kind of 500 to start the year. I like what I'm seeing out of Kyrou. I like what I'm seeing out of Buchnevich. Robert Thomas is off to a decent start. I kind of want to see Binnington so I can call him bitch a ton all night because he does bitch a ton. But Hofer's been good for the Blues, so hey, he made a couple of great saves earlier on in the season. But yeah, so it should be interesting coming up on Tuesday and then on Thursday, next Thursday night. This should be good. This is going to be a good test of the Bees because the Bruins lost to this team. They lost this team a few weeks ago at home. It's about time you return the favor. You lost 5-2 at home to the Dallas Stars. I would like you to return the favor, please. Make them lose 5-2 at home. How about that? All right. I understand Ottinger's going to be in net probably. It'll probably be Swayman. My roommate Grant's going to is going to freak out because it's his dream goalie matchup because it's his two favorite goalies in the NHL. He likes Swayman and he likes Ottinger. Grant loves those two. But hey, it should be a good game Thursday night, 8 p.m. down at the American Airlines Center in Dallas. I think that's what they're still calling it. I know some arena names have been changed. Like they're calling the Orlando Magic Arena is now known as the Kia Center. Did not find that out till yesterday. Did not even know about that. So let me check. Yep, still the American Airlines Center. I got that right. I think the Blues Arena is the Enterprise Center. Anyways, yeah. So American Airlines Center Thursday night, Bruins and Stars. What are we expecting there?
Yeah, it's one of those. Just to touch on the naming of the arenas. It's all about sponsorship. Whoever wants to pay the biggest buck gets to put their name on it. We have a place here called the Mary Brown Center, and Mary Brown's is it's like the KFC of Eastern Canada, basically. And it's funny to think about it because people wanted to rename the stadium the Bucket, which would have been hilarious. But that's actually where the Growlers used to play when they were in the ECHL. Just to touch on the Dylan Holloway thing, scary incident. Any of these situations are always scary, no matter if you're a pro or an amateur. The last I saw, he was recovering well. They didn't notice any swelling with the windpipe or anything, so it doesn't seem like he was in danger. So yeah, definitely prayers up to Holloway and another guy we'd like to see a speedy recovery out of. Yeah, when it comes to Dallas, it's one of those things. It's almost like the same old song and dance. You've played them. It's always interesting to see. Because we cheer for the Bruins, it's interesting to see the Bruins play a team a second time, especially if they lose the first one. So, like, for example, they came out against Philadelphia. They blew them out of the water in the second one after losing the first one. Same as you. I want to see them do the same thing with Dallas. You kind of know what they have now. You know what they're good at. You know what they're bad at, so capitalize on it. Duchesne, Stankoven, and Seguin lead the team in points. Ottinger has looked like an absolute stud. 6-2, 2.2 goals against, .922 save percentage. DeSmith is 2-2 with a 2 goals against and a .922 save also, but he's played. I want to say that Ottinger's played 10 and DeSmith has only played 5, so it's a bit of a big difference there. But yeah, you got to come out and you got to capitalize on what you've seen as what you've seen the weaknesses out of them at this point in the season. I'd love to see a similar situation to the Ottawa game. I'd love to see both goalies play well, but obviously I always want to see the Bruins come out on top.
Yeah, I want to see them come out on top. I want to see them pull out a win, stick it to them after they stuck it to us at home, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of what I'm thinking here. Let's get on to some of your questions here. If you have any questions, feel free to join on the YouTube side. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitch, Twitter, and on 2 YouTube channels. We're live on the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel, and we're live on my YouTube channel, Sam Smith Bruins coverage right here over on my channel. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in. We'll be happy to answer your questions about the future of the Bruins for the week coming up this week. So just feel free to send in some questions here. CHL includes WHL, OHL, QMJHL, I'm pretty sure. Okay. So they would be eligible to go to the NCAA.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just with Loki, he doesn't have to he doesn't have to wait. Like he could go pro right now if he wanted to. There's nothing that would keep him from going pro tomorrow if he wanted to.
Absolutely. Kenny Kaminsky, co-host of the Providence Hockey Report. What is the timetable for Dave and I's guy, Dan Loshmelish? Do you think he will sign with a team following his college season? Is he ready for pro hockey? Dave, you know this guy better than I do.
I think Loshmelish is definitely going to go pro next year. I think he's looked absolutely great in college. I still can't get over the goal that me and Mark talked about last week where he had a phantom goal. He went to deke, but he left the puck behind and it just squeaked past the goalie. Like, just beautiful things you're seeing. A guy like that, like, he comes from Latvia. You don't hear a lot of big name players coming from Latvia, but he basically single-handedly carried that team in the World Juniors. So if you put some quality players around him, I think he could do some dangerous stuff. I don't know if he's going to go straight to Providence or if he's going to have a stop in Maine, but I could definitely see him. I could definitely see him going pro next year. He just give me a second. Last 10 games, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points with a +6. It's been looking really good over the last 10 games. So if that's any indication, then yeah, I think it's a pretty easy bet that he's going to go pro next year. One thing me and Mark touched on as well was the difference between what Lysell has and what Los Melis has. So they kind of threw Lysell right into Providence, but Los Melis is getting to go into college and kind of learn the North American game kind of behind the scenes, because obviously we know that Providence is a more media covered. The AHL is a more media covered league than the NCAA in the grand scheme. So he may be making mistakes, but he gets to learn the North American game before going pro. That's one thing Lysell didn't get a chance to do. So again, this is another reason why you need to be patient with this guy. But yeah, like I said, 11 points in the last 10 games with a +6. He definitely looks like he's ready for it. Offensively, he looks like an absolute stud. He is a two-way player. He plays hard. He really does seem like he has a good head on his shoulders. So yeah, Kenny, I would not be surprised at all if he was going pro next year.
100%. Let's take a look. Oh, this is a good one. Why isn't Pasta trying? Well, here is my response to that question, RD71122. Why is Pastrnak not trying? Well, last night he looked like he was trying. He had 2 assists last night in that game, and he has been playing better. But here's why I somewhat agree with your question at the same time. We should start to have the discussion on the Bruins power play and why it sucks. Here is my thing, and now Bruins fans are going to cancel me again for saying this. Get David Pastrnak off the power play and see what happens. The reason why? He doesn't score at the one-timer anymore. And also, he turns over the puck way too much on the power play.
A lot.
He tries to do way too much with the puck. It doesn't add up. It's not worth it. You know what's interesting? When he doesn't score many power play goals anymore. He really doesn't. And for a guy that we're paying 11.25 to, that's not good. It's not. I wouldn't want this guy to be on my power play. Which brings up my next point. And I don't know if you agree with this, David. If we're really consistent on putting Pastrnak on the power play, McAvoy, Pastrnak, and Marchand should not be on the same unit. I've been saying that since the summer, and they didn't listen, and now the power play sucks. Hampus Lindholm should quarterback power play 1. Am I wrong?
No, you're definitely right, especially after what we've seen so far this season. The big thing with putting guys like, if you're putting Marchand, Pastrnak, and McAvoy on the same power play, like, I understand it's a power play. You want to be offense, like, driven on a power play. But the thing you got to think about, you still have 4 players on the other side who are trying to score on you. Those 3 players are going to take chances offensively. And if they don't have defensive players behind them, then, you're going to see some shorthanded goals. I would like to see them broken up as well, especially mostly because of how Marchand and Pastrnak seem to be turnover machines at this point. You can't have them out there together because neither one of them keep the puck. I agree with what you're saying. That, like, lower circle one-timer slap shot, the goalies seem to just be waiting for it at this point. There needs to be some sort of new system put in for the power play. And yeah, I mean, with the way that Montgomery runs lines, why not try something different? I know he's a big, like, you paid him all this money and whatever else, but, like, if it ain't working, it ain't working.
And here's my thing, right? That's a great point. Montgomery has not been afraid to shift up the 5-on-5 lines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised he hasn't touched the power play once. I don't know. Lindholm, Pasta, Marchand, Coyle should be on the power play 1. Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. Okay, Kevin, I agree with most of that. Pasternak and Marchand should also not be on the same power play unit because they turn over the puck too much. 2 turnover machines on the same unit is death on a power play. So here's what we are going to do. We're going to respond. Okay, if you want to keep Pasternak on the first unit, fine. Coyle can be your Marchand for all I care. Brazeau at the front plops himself right in front of the net. Screens the goalie completely. You can have Pasternak on the left circle like he always is. Hampus Lindholm center point, and to be honest, I'm putting Coyle on the right side wall. Elias Lindholm in the bumper, and Brazeau in front. That's my opinion.
I think it works. I think Brazeau in those situations can work almost like James Van Riemsdyk worked last year.
Yeah.
Get in front of the net, get big, get those dirty little bounce goals. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I know Parker is screaming somewhere for sure with you saying that Brazeau should be on the power play. You know how much he's loving that. But yeah, Sam, it's one of those things. The power play ain't working. Why not try something else? Like, I'm not gonna lie, the power play has looked better. It looked good in the Flyers game. It looked bad in the Leafs game. But you're seeing glimpses of it. It's just a matter of something's got to change. There's got to be something. It's got to be better than what it is if you want to make a run with this team.
The Bruins power play is 3rd worst in the National Hockey League at 12.9%.
Yep.
That's inexcusable. And they haven't changed the units once. They haven't even tried to change anything.
And in saying that, Sam, it wouldn't surprise me that they didn't change it if Montgomery didn't swap the 5-on-5 line so much. If he stayed consistent with the 5-on-5 lines, I wouldn't be overly surprised that he's not touching the power play. But the fact that he's willing to move those around so much, but for some reason he's like, I have to leave these 5 together, it just makes no sense. It seems so backwards.
Like, the only 2 teams that have a worse power play than the Bruins are the Blues and the Capitals. The Capitals, for some reason, are apparently amazing. They're 9-3. The Bruins are 7-1 and have the 3rd worst power play in the National Hockey League. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
and you know what that calls for? Montgomery loves this word. Blender.
I was wondering if you were going to say it.
Blender. Switch things up. Whatever they're doing, it's obvious, Jim and Chris Kelly. It's not working, guys. It's not. So change it. You haven't been afraid to change the 5-on-5 forward core. You certainly shouldn't be afraid to change the power play when it actually sucks.
Yep.
Like, it's gotten to the point where, the Bruins get a power play. I'm screaming, decline it. That's how bad it is. I haven't seen the Bruins power play this bad in years.
It's been
years. Bad. It wasn't even bad this year. The Bruins had one of the best power plays in the league 2 years ago. How is that possible? How do you go from first to worst in like that? Oh, wait, I know. Let's ask the Boston Red Sox. They'll know. Anyways, that's not the point. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is change something. Marchand and Pasternak have proven power play success together. Great. They're turning over the puck way too much. They're both deking when they shouldn't be. Split them up. Marchand should be on power play 2 with Zaka and somebody else. I don't understand. And I would honestly put Lohrei and McAvoy together on power play 2. So McAvoy doesn't have to quarterback the entire unit. It could be a 50-50 split. In my eyes. Yeah,
they got to try something. It's to the point where they got to try something. Sam, if you want to highlight that message from Kenny about both Providence and Boston special teams. Yeah, and Kenny, you'd know better than anyone, considering you are a host of the Providence Hockey Report, you know more than anyone when it comes to how Providence is doing with that. The Bruins, Sam, you said they're third last in power play,
Yeah.
and I think they're 22nd in penalty kill right now at like 75%. If you're planning on making a run, these numbers are just not good enough. Providence, yeah, I think they'll turn it around as well. I think you'll see Jones is going to help out with that as well. Yeah, something's got to change. There's got to be something. If they plan on making a run, these special teams need to do some work.
Yeah, the Bruins have the 10th worst power play in the national penalty kill in the National Hockey League at 75.8%.
Yeah.
So you're averaging giving up a goal of every 4 power plays. You had one of the best penalty kills in the league last year and 2 years ago. I don't understand what's changed here. It's the same people running the power play and the penalty kill.
And the thing you got to think about, Sam, is they brought in players that they said they're going to help them make a deeper run in the playoffs. When you think about how the game slows down in the playoffs, you would think a penalty kill would be better with guys like, Zadorov, even Lindholm. You'd think that the penalty kill would be better with these players that they brought in order to make this deeper run in the playoffs, but everything is just going backwards right now.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. They should let go of Chris Kelly. That would be a start. I don't know. I don't think they. I don't think they will or they should. But wonder what's going on with their organizational system that's creating the struggles with both teams. Honestly, don't know, Sharon.
I think, in my personal opinion, I think there's a disconnect between the front office philosophy and the head coaching philosophy for the Bruins. I don't know enough about Providence to touch on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar. Providence is a little bit different too, because you got to think about guys that are joining now and coming in and out. Like Tufte just went down. You're seeing Max Jones go down. It's not easy to fit these big guys back into to a consistent lineup. So Providence is a little bit more fluid, I think, with how that's going to work. But and the other thing too, we don't know how much Providence is geared towards making guys like Merkulov and Lysell and Lethierry. Like sometimes they just want to make these guys look good, and they're going to sacrifice other things to make that happen. Obviously, they still want to win. Everyone wants to win, but you got to think there's something behind the scenes that's just not clicking.
Definitely a disconnect. Do you think Jones or Tufte will be recalled by the end of the season? So far, Tufte looks hungry in the AHL. Jones plays tonight, but I would rather see a guy like Lethierry or Brown get a shot. Here's my thoughts. Tufte is a hell no. Jones is a 50-50. There's an injury. And I agree with you, Kenny. I would want to see Lethierry or Brown up in the league over Jones or Tufte, in my personal view. That's my opinion. But again, it's kind of wait to see if there's any forward injuries. But for right now, we're good there. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I don't think Tufte comes back up. I think he's comfortable in the AHL, and I think he's going to do well down there. I think he's going to be a bit of a voice for some of the younger guys. Jones, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back up, especially if Geekie gets waived or gets sent somewhere else. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up as a 13th forward if he finds his footing down the minors. But I agree. I'd love to see Lethierry or Brown. Man, I'd even love to see like Merkulov or someone, like give someone else a shot. I don't like this whole Mark touches on this all the time regarding the head coaching, but we don't need to recycle players all the time. Just give some other guys a chance.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see here. This team isn't making the run. I don't see them getting out of the first round if they squeak in the playoffs. I've seen a large enough sample size of this team to know who they are. Here is my question, right, about that. We haven't even hit the halfway mark of the season yet, right? We're 15 games into the season. There's still ways to go. What if they get on this hot stretch, they start playing amazing hockey, and they don't turn back, right? And they are more built for the playoffs. They go on a run, and you win the Stanley Cup. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, right? Great. Then what? If you make a run, if you don't make a run, let's say, let's say you don't even make the playoffs, let's say. Then what do you do? Right?
I love how Boston Gamer just said, then I'd be wrong, but I don't see it.
Yeah. I don't know.
To touch on that as well, Sam. Yeah, we like we're only 16 games in, 15 games in.
15.
Yeah, we still we got a long ways to go here. And like you said, if let's just say that they pull off a 6-game win streak or a 4-game win streak or something, the fan base will completely turn around. Oh, they found it. They're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. They lose 4 in a row. Season's over. Sell off everyone. It's a very reactive fan base, and we're used to this at this point. But yeah, let's give it a couple more months. Let's see where we are closer to the trade deadline, and we can discuss this again.
I'm not making any predictions on if they're going to make the playoffs or not until at least after American Thanksgiving. Hell, maybe even Christmas. Like I'm not there, you know? Like especially the team is as mid as 500 as the Bruins have been to start the year. I'm not making any predictions. So I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to make a run or not. Cuz we really don't know. We really don't. Yeah. We really don't know. Mujanel and Monty keep changing the lines, but I want to see some consistency for Providence. It's harder for AHL teams to gel. Zero urgency on the power play in Providence, which is why I think the special teams is awful in Providence, because it's harder for guys to gel. You know, that's a basic thing.
I think with Providence, it's a little, again, I'm not overly familiar with how the AHL works, but I think it's a little bit harder to get consistency when you have players coming up and down like that. Like if you're plopping Riley Tufte and Max Jones into your lineup, it's hard to keep everything else static. It seems like there's going to be a lot of movement, especially in Providence, to see what works and to see if they can get the young guys going and see who pairs best with Merkulov and Lysell. And, you know, is Lethierry the guy that has some sort of reclamation and he comes up? Or, you know, we signed Patrick Brown a couple of years ago and now he's in the minors. Is he ready to come back up? There's just so much fluidity with the minors that I'm not surprised that you're seeing more fluctuation there. Would like to see a lot less of it with the Boston Bruins, but that's yet to be seen.
Why has the penalty kill gone south? Again, I don't really know. I mean, yeah, they got rid of Forbort, DeBrusk, and Heinen. I understand that. And Forbort was a good penalty killer. But, like, DeBrusk wasn't really... Heinen was never on the penalty kill. DeBrusk was barely on the penalty kill last year. So that didn't help anything. But Forbort, I understand that. But you have Lindholm and Zadorov who can do a better job than that, and they just aren't. They have the 10th worst penalty kill in the National Hockey League, and I don't understand why. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense why they're so bad on the penalty kill. It's like, oh, wait, I know. It's because they can't stay off the penalty kill. That's why. Because they can't stay off the penalty kill because they take too many fucking penalties.
Definitely doesn't help.
That's why. They keep taking way too many penalties. And I don't understand why. Zadorov. Anyways. Let's take a look here. At the deadline, what players do you want to see on the Bees? It's way too soon to start talking about the deadline. I mean, the deadline is not until literally 4 months from yesterday. March 7th is the NHL trade deadline this year. So we are still ways away from that. So I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I can talk about who we could get rid of at the trade deadline. Morgan Geekie, Trent Frederick, if he still plays like this. I don't know. I can sit here and talk about that, but I couldn't tell you who we should get, if anything at all. Like, I remember last year I was saying, oh, they should go get a center. They should go get a winger. Andrew Peak and Pat Maroon were the only two things the Bruins got at the deadline last year. Maroon still, for help, Maroon isn't with the Bruins anymore, and Peak's on the sidelines right now with an injury. So, not great. Peak should be back hopefully in the next week or two, though. So I don't know. Honestly, don't know. But we'll see. I don't know. What do you think, David? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think like who the Bruins should get or get rid of?
Yeah, it's another one of those things where it's way too early for me to talk about the trade deadline. But 10 shots, if you want to bring that back up in like mid-January, you go for it. I will answer all that question at that point.
Yeah, that's the right idea, Sam. Subtractions I'm for. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I was with Sweeney last season. I wasn't trying to spend big last through the deadline. And I understand why they didn't spend big. I mean, because look at what happened 2 years ago. You have Bertuzzi and Orlov and the choke. You know what I mean? You didn't spend a lot last year, and you got yourself to the playoffs, and you got yourself out of the first round. So, whatever, you know? Yep. I don't know. I'm willing to look at subtractions before additions at this point. Once we get closer, we'll kind of see what we need.
Yeah.
But for right now, I can't really tell you. Retool now before it becomes a rebuild. I'm not there yet. If they have a bad season this year, they just don't make the playoffs, then yeah, we can talk about a retool and then getting into a chance to compete in 26, 27. But that we're still way too far away. They're currently retooling. Are they? Or are they trying to spend money to win? That's my thing. That's my question. They're trying to spend money to win now, right? I don't know.
I feel like it depends. Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. Like, I don't think you're going to see a rebuild within the next 4 to 5 years. You don't sign a guy like Zadorov and a guy like Lindholm and Pasternak for that example. These guys don't want to play on rebuilding teams. They want to win now. These teams are being built to win now. It's just, like we said before, there's some sort of disconnect with how they're being built and how they're being coached. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see any sort of rebuild within the immediate future. I don't know if I would consider this to be a retool. I think the retool was supposed to come the year after Krejci and Bergeron left. That seems to be what was happening there. But again, we're early into the season to talk about all this stuff. But if you want to get into it, yeah, I don't think you're going to see a rebuild within the next 3 to 5 years.
Retooling and rebuilding are different. Yes, I'm aware. I don't even think they're retooling. I think they literally just had to fill needs to have an NHL roster, and I think that's exactly what they did. I don't think they're retooling. Well, they are retooling, obviously, because they're filling in the needs. I mean, that makes sense. But a retool, to me, is what the Bruins did in the middle of the 2010s. A retool, to me, is what the Rangers did a few years ago before they got good. That's a retool. The Bruins, with this roster, can still go off and compete, you know, on paper. On paper.
The other thing you got to look at too, Sam.
I don't know.
Bruins fans are a little bit spoiled. I don't think we realize how good we have it. Yeah, maybe we have some first-round exits and stuff, but we're currently we have the longest playoff streak right now, dating back to 2015. So that's something else you need to look at. I think we're tied with one other team dating back to 2015 for the longest streak of being in the playoffs. So, you know, we might be a little bit spoiled. We might, but it comes with the territory too. You know, the Boston Bruins are expected to do good. So, yeah, just keep that in mind when you talk about retooling and rebuilding, that we're currently on the longest streak of making the playoffs.
100%. And hey, by the way, breaking news, I just realized this now. The Bruins Montgomery did not shuffle the lines in practice today. Good job. Good job. You learned your lesson until they lose, and then you're going to unlearn your lesson. You're going to shuffle it up again.
Might be the first time all season, Sam.
What's that?
This might be the first time all season that he hasn't retooled the lines between games.
I know. Well, no, he didn't. He didn't do it from this game to this game.
Yeah,
and then he changed going into this game.
Of course, because he lost, like you said.
Exactly. How hot is Montgomery's seat? It's still hot. It's still hot. Not as hot, still hot. Let's see. They missed the playoffs only by a point or two in those 2 years during the retool. Is that not how it feels the season's trending? Again, it's too early, Kevin. It's still too early to determine that. So far, sure, I can see that, but maybe in 20 games from now, I'll have a different opinion for you in 20 games than I can right now, in my personal opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, the other thing you got to look at with that, and maybe it shouldn't be this way, but you brought in two big name players like Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov are big name players. Sometimes, even though they're big name players, it doesn't mean that they're going to automatically just work out. And you look at guys like Marchand, Swayman. Marchand was going through 3 different surgeries on 3 parts of his body. Swayman didn't sign until like the day before opening day or 2 days before opening day. There's certain things that it's going to take this team some time. And I do think you're going to see an improvement. If you don't, Montgomery Seed is going to get hot to the point where he's not going to be sitting in it anymore. I think the one thing that would cool it off a lot right now is a nice, consistent, like little 3 or 4 game win streak against some good teams. So hopefully we can see that this week. But yeah, like Sam said, you got to give it a little bit more time before we talk about the trending and stuff. I saw something. I can't remember which of the announcers it was, but it was one of the Nesson announcers. And we were like, I don't know, 10 games into the season. He was like, the Bruins have only won 2 games in a row twice. And it's like, dude, like we're 14 games into the season. Just relax for a minute. It seems like we're like 60 games in there talking about they can't win back-to-back games. But yeah, we need to cool it from time to time. And sometimes you just got to sit there and consider yourself to be a fan. But other times you really got to try to take the fandom out of it and look at the big picture and let the team grow and see what we're looking at. Lucky, that's a great point. Look at Nashville. Look at the players that they signed and look what they're doing. They look like hot garbage. Yeah, they blew the Bruins out, but other than that, they look like hot garbage. That's a great example. What do you think their fan base is doing after signing guys like Stamkos and Marchessault? Like these are, yeah.
Barry Trotz said yesterday that if they don't turn it around, they're going to go into a full-on rebuild.
Yeah. So how do you think they feel about that? We're talking about a rebuild with Pasternak and Zadorov and Lindholm being signed to these deals. Imagine signing Stamkos and Marchessault to these deals and having the Stanley Cup aspirations and looking even worse than the Bruins do. So again, consider yourself lucky sometimes.
Yeah.
Kevin, I appreciate that. Like I said, you're never going to see me get too negative. I'm all about patience. I'm all about letting the guys be who they are and waiting to see what happens. So I know there's always going to be a deadline. There's going to be a cutoff where you need to make a decision on whether you're going for it or you're not. But we're not there yet.
I think they just need to add. I completely agree. I think they need to just get a little better in a couple of spots. For example, when it comes to the negativity around the team right now, somebody made a meme graphic of, and if you're watching this, you're gonna laugh. If you're listening to this, you might want to go and watch this. They made a meme during the election about a CNN projection. NHL Boston Bruins, absolute ass. The Bruins have won 3 of their last 4 games. Thank you very much. That's my thoughts on that part. But no. I don't. Jeez. No. Too thin in depth on forwards. If the top 6 gets fixed, they have plenty to make that bottom 6 great. I think they just need to add one more top 6 solidified guy. We thought we were getting that with Lindholm. I guess not so far. Like, he's kind of been like good, but not amazing, if you will.
He looked good at the start of the season, and then he fell off a little bit. He's been pretty mediocre as of late. I think in terms of the adding to the team, like Tyler Johnson just came in. He's only had 1 game. I'm sure they're expecting him to be something within the top 6. Yep. Again, I think they're still kind of evaluating exactly what it is they need to add, and they're kind of letting it play a little bit. They know they have time before they need to make any drastic decisions. I don't know if an ad is going to come before Montgomery gets fired if everything keeps going to shit. But like Sam said, we won 3 of the last 4, and Going into this week, there's some optimism that things are going to turn around. The backup goalies looked a lot better than people expected them to look. So there are some positives to take away. Obviously, there's negatives too, but I'm okay with where we are. Like we don't need to set the house on fire at this point. We're treading water right now.
And last point before we wrap this up here tonight, and defense just needs to cut the shit. They should be the best part of this team. You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. The defense has been awful. Awful. And it shouldn't be awful. You know what I mean? Like Swayman and Korpisalo have gotten nothing from this defense so far to start the year. We are 15 games in, and we're still having issues like it's peewee with defense.
It's one of those things, Sam, where I think a lot of it, especially in these games where, like I said before, they have the 2-goal leads and they sit back on their heels. The defense is going to look bad if you let the game come to you like that. You got to put more pressure on the offense, especially when they're trying to get into your zone. You need to man up on guys like Matthews to make sure he doesn't get behind you like he did. There's certain goals like we saw in that Calgary game that are going to happen. The bouncing goal, Kadri's goal. Like Kadri's a good player. You're going to have good players that do crazy things against you, but there needs to be some sort of philosophy change, especially with this 2-goal lead where they just sit back and hope everything goes well, but it's not working. And honestly, when they're more aggressive on offense, I feel like they play harder on defense. A lot of people say, defense wins championships and stuff, but if you're off a couple goals, it makes it a lot easier to play defense sometimes.
Hasn't been proven for the Bees though. Can't multi-goal lead, so see what happens there. But hey, that is the end of episode 370 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Mark will hopefully be back with us next week. As once again, I can confirm he is still in a standoff with the Pooh Bear after making crappy comments about him about said Pooh Bear over the past couple of weeks, which is why I am representing with the Pooh Bear this week. So Mark, hopefully he is going to escape the wrath of the Pooh Bear and make up with the Pooh Bear about his crappy comments, because he's just somewhat so incorrect about his feelings about the Pooh Bear, ladies and gentlemen. And Mark, you're fired. Anyways, that's it for this week's episode of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. If you enjoyed, make sure to please, if you're on the YouTube side, smash the like button on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the bell to never miss when we go live or upload here on the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel and on my YouTube channel. You don't want to miss when we go live or upload here on these channels. Make sure to follow both of us on social media. You can go follow me at Sam Smith on YT on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You can go follow David on Twitter at DC_709. And thank you for listening in. For those who are listening in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, thank you very much for listening in today. Make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and a nice review. It helps us out and makes us become one of the top hockey podcasts out there. I want to thank all of you for listening in tonight. If you enjoyed, share the stream, share the podcast with your friends and your family. For those who want to talk or listen about the Bruins, you're at the right spot, and share it with your friends or family. Have a fantastic week. We'll be back with you next week. Hopefully Mark will escape the wrath of the Pooh Bear and be back with us next week, and he will be rehired. For now, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you guys next time here on episode 371 next week of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.